Afternoon, the Minnesota Senate Energy, Utilities, Environment, and Climate Committee will please come to order. It is Wednesday, March 17th, 2026. It's not quite 12:30 p.m., but close enough, and we are in the Minnesota Senate Building, room 1150. A quorum is present. Thank you, members, for your patience. We welcome our own Senator John Hoffman to present Senate File 3954. Senator Hoffman.
Mr. Chair, we should have had some segue music going in there. That would have been great since you had your new gavel. I like that. But I appreciate you. I absolutely deeply appreciate you giving me the opportunity to present Senate File 3954. It's been in law since 2005, and it's got a long history of bipartisan support. As you can see on the jacket, it would be you, Mr. Senator Rarick, and Senator Frentz are on there, and Senator Gruenhagen's going to add his name to it. But stakeholders, what this is, it's worked well, and including the AG and Department of Commerce. They set up a process that assures transparency and accountability, which is why I'm back this year seeking to repeal the sunset date that's associated with the provisions. So in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is turn it over to Dan Kanoy, who's from Xcel Energy, who's an engineer, an actually certified state of Minnesota engineer. And just to let you know offhand that the GUIC rider, it's an administrative tool for timely recovery of safety investments as the commission deems appropriate. And it's not an avenue to address broader gas utility policy questions. So it's very focused. So with that, Mr. Chair, I give you Dan Kanoy.
Thank you. Senator, if you could please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Yeah, my name is Dan Kanoy. I'm the Director of Gas Operations Engineering for Xcel Energy. I'd just like to wish all of you a happy National Natural Gas Utility Workers Day. March 17th every year. You can't make it up. That's today. We celebrate today because on this date in 1937, one of the biggest tragedies in the natural gas industry took place in New London, Texas at a school, and that's why we now put more captain in our gas. So a safety-related topic for today. So like I said, my name is Dan Kanoy. I am the Director of Gas Operations Engineering for Xcel Energy. In this role, I have oversight of Xcel Energy's engineering and system design in each state, with Xcel operates a natural gas system. Xcel Energy's gas system in Minnesota serves approximately 500,000 residential customers who rely on it every day for use such as home heating, hot showers, and cooking. In addition to residential customers, our gas system supports commercial and industrial customers, including generational of electricity. The GUIC refers to the gas utility infrastructure cost rider utilized by Xcel Energy to recover the costs for prudent mandates, safety, and compliance work on our system. This rider is about maintaining existing infrastructure and does not include projects that increase the throughput or expands the system, in which we typically refer to as capacity or new business work. Capacity expansion and new business projects are recovered through the traditional rate case recovery process. The GUIC is very specific, focused on mandated relocations and federal code required safety and compliance work on the existing gas system. This work includes projects such as maximum allowable operating pressure reconfirmation that are driven by federal regulations stemming from PG&E's San Bruno pipeline rupture, as well as pipeline assessments, repairs, replacement work that is driven by federal integrity management regulations. The GUIC rider is very structured filing. Filing occurred in November of each year and includes a forward-looking view of planned expenditures for the upcoming year, an update on the current year projects, and a true-up of the prior year. This rider provides additional oversights as compared to a rate case by nature for the 3-year filing, as well as risk assessment and performance matrix that were established through collaboration with stakeholders, including the Office of the Attorney General and the Department of Commerce. Over the last several years, expenditures within the GUIC have maintained relatively flat, with some year-over-year variability driven by the work scheduling and mandated work by municipalities. Historically, these filings had significant engagement from intervening parties while risk assessment and performance metrics were being developed. However, the last couple of years, there have been no opposition to from these parties. In closing, I want to emphasize that as operators of a gas distribution, gas transmission infrastructure within the state of Minnesota, We take safety very seriously. We need to ensure the safety of the gas system today, regardless of how long we believe it will be in service. In fact, decoupling the safety of the existing system from the new business and capacity expansions work enables Xcel to focus efforts on advancing the state's climate policy goals while continuing to maintain the safety of the existing natural gas system. The GYC is about maintaining safety of the gas system, not expanding it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanoy. Well done. Senator Hoffman, I have Assistant Commissioner Lieb on the list. Is that testimony we're planning to take, or do you want to go to Mr. Pearson?
Mr. Pearson is up here, just to let you know. Mr. Pearson, of course, is a long time with Xcel Energy, and he's up here if there's any questions pertaining to the rider and to be helped. But no, he did not testifying. But you can go right to the Assistant Commissioner if you want.
Commissioner, you want to come forward? Mr. Pearson, you don't go too far away. You never know when there'll be questions. Thanks, Senator Hoffman.
Thank you.
Ms. Lieb, thanks for coming back to the committee. If you could please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Frentz and members of the committee. I'm Sydney Lieb. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Regulatory Affairs at the Minnesota Department of Commerce. As a general position, the department prefers to put as few costs into riders as possible. We believe it's better for ratepayers to have investments robustly analyzed through a fully litigated rate case to ensure that these investments are necessarily right-sized for the system and maintain affordability and reliability of the system overall. Affordable natural gas is an important fuel for many of our existing large industrial customers and allows them to maintain a competitive marketplace in Minnesota. Availability of affordable natural gas service is critical to the state to continue to attract new business for economic development. And with this in mind, the Department of Commerce is committed to ensuring investments in the system are carefully vetted so that that service and delivery cost of natural gas remains affordable and competitive with our neighboring states. As we've already discussed in hearings earlier this year, gas service and delivery charges have grown more than 30% in the last 15 years in Minnesota, largely driven by infrastructure investments. And given the pace of these investments, it's necessary to improve our regulatory oversight on gas infrastructure spending to protect ratepayers and maintain competitive environment in the state. Putting costs in rate cases rather than a rider allows the Public Utilities Commission and interveners and the public to have a better idea of actual bill impacts of the decisions being made by the Public Utilities Commission. When rates are set piecemeal in various rider proceedings, it's difficult to assess the overall impact of individual investments on rates. Rate case is handled through a robust proceeding with review of the record by an administrative law judge and sufficient time for expert analysis. By comparison, a rider proceeding is typically much quicker and does not provide sufficient time for expert analysis of the system needs, discovery to understand why the company is making these investments, and there's no review by a third-party administrative law judge. The department acknowledges that a rate case is a more robust proceeding that has relatively higher administrative costs than a rider review. However, we strongly believe that inclusion of the investments that are currently reviewed in the GUIC rider will have only a marginal impact on the administrative burden of a new rate case. When you are considering arguments regarding the administrative cost of a rate case, you must consider that these costs of a rate case proceeding are on average less than 0.5% of a utility's proposed budget. So the benefit financially to ratepayers of a robust review of these investments well outweighs the cost of a rate case proceeding. The GUIC rider is an annual filing. Since its inception, Xcel has recovered almost $400 million in infrastructure investments through the rider. Since the rider was created in 2009, it's been extensively used by Xcel Energy and sparingly by Merck and Great Plains. CenterPoint has delivered safe and reliable energy to its customers without ever using this rider. When infrastructure costs are scrutinized in a full rate case, the Department of Commerce and other stakeholders are able to fully analyze the need and justification for these investments. As a recent example, I'd like to highlight that in Xcel's ongoing rate case, the company proposed an $18.7 million expansion project to allegedly meet gas demand in a specific location on their system. When our engineers asked the company for information justifying the need for this expansion, the company replied that they did not have any data that the department had requested to support this investment. These types of projects would not be adequately reviewed if they are in the GUIC rider. There will not be sufficient opportunity for the department's engineering experts to fully review the plans and to provide discovery of these investments to ensure that the company's forecasting and modeling is adequately justifying the need for these historically $400 million worth of investments. A rate case assures scrutiny of utilities' costs and provides strong motivation for the utility to control these costs between rate cases. This is why the department feels it's necessary at this time to allow this rider to expire. The department's available for questions.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. Can I ask, is the department taking an official position on this bill?
The department believes the rider should not be extended.
You're opposed to Senate File 3954?
We are.
Thank you for the testimony. Next, we have Jamie Fitzke from CenterPoint, and on deck would be Caitlin Eichten from Fresh Energy. Ms. Fitzke, if you could come forward, please. Ms. Fitzke, welcome back to the committee. If you could please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today, Chair Frentz and members of the committee. My name is Jamie Fitzke. I'm Director of Government Affairs for CenterPoint Energy. So, as what was highlighted earlier, today is March 18th. It is Natural Gas Utility Worker Day. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the highly skilled trades who are part of this industry. The International Union of Operating Engineers, also known as the 49ers, you literally move the ground and earth around us, so thank you. And then a shout out to LIUNA. LIUNA members are a large and significant part of our natural gas utility contract workforce. Your members are critical to our infrastructure. And then I would love to highlight CenterPoint Energy's two internal trade unions, IBEW, CenterPoint's IBEW 949. Thank you for all the work that you do. And then under the Pipe Fitters Union, CenterPoint's Gas Workers Local 340. I am so proud to call you all colleagues. The work you do quite literally provides the critical heating and energy resources that Minnesota needs. These highly skilled men and women make it possible for us to live in Minnesota, where just this winter we had not one, but 3 extreme cold spells, where temperatures were around -20 for nearly 3 days straight. This highly trained natural gas workforce connects Minnesotan residents to safe, reliable, and affordable natural gas that heats our homes and is vital to our local businesses for manufacturing, high heat industrial use, agriculture, and economic growth of Minnesota. These men and women provide this type of heat and warmth for us 365 days a year through their work. We really appreciate you. And I just wanted to acknowledge my colleagues and this workforce on Natural Gas Utility Worker Day. So now I'll just continue on with my testimony on Senate File 3954. CenterPoint Energy has never used the GUIC rider. So now you're probably wondering, why am I testifying in support of the GUIC? First, historically, the GUIC has not been controversial. This is because the scope of projects that qualify for GUIC is extremely narrow. It's for integrity management projects that are mandated by federal, state, or local jurisdictions on existing infrastructure. This would be the exact same for an electric utility or water utilities. To be clear, these lines are not new extensions, but required for upgrades to existing infrastructure. Second, both electric and natural gas utilities have riders. This isn't a blank check. Projects that qualify for the GUIC rider undergo PUC and regulatory scrutiny, similar to other riders through an extensive and thorough regulatory process. An example of that would be utility riders for ECO and for NGIA, which stands for Natural Gas Innovation Act. Sorry for using acronyms for that one. Third, Minnesota has 5 rate-regulated natural gas utilities. No 2 utilities are the same. All vary in size, customer composition, geography, and unique location needs throughout the state. This is why I'm testifying in support of Senate File 3954. GUIC is an option that should remain available due to its narrow perimeters to address safety and integrity. It recognizes specific costs utilities are required to spend, and those costs are thoroughly reviewed by the PUC. The GUIC may allow for a utility to recover such costs outside of a litigated rate case that can be very resource intensive. CenterPoint may be interested in that option one day. I've now had the benefit of hearing testimony last week in the House on some of the concerns in continuing the GUIC rider. If there are still concerns on transparency or project review, I believe those could be remedied. But what concerns me was testifiers connecting the GUIC to future gas policy and the indication that the indication that access to natural gas was going to be reduced. Currently, there is no state policy that prohibits a business or home from connecting to the natural gas system. But there is code requirements that require to update existing facilities for safety, which seems important to note for this bill and on Natural Gas Utility Workers' Day. So in closing, I hope to find a resolution that keeps GUIC available as an option, and my sincere thanks to Senator Hoffman, the bill co-authors, and all the natural gas workers who heat our homes and our economy. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ms. Fitzke. We'll next hear from Ms. Eichten from Fresh Energy. Ms. Eichten, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Friends, committee members. My name is Caitlin Eichten. I'm here today representing Fresh Energy. Fresh Energy is a Minnesota-based clean energy nonprofit, and our organization regularly participates in regulatory proceedings at the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. Fresh Energy recommends that the gas utility infrastructure cost rider be sunset, so we're opposed to the language in Senate File 3954 as currently written, which would make existing GUIC rider permanent. Like other utility riders, the GUIC rider allows gas utilities to recover certain infrastructure replacement costs outside of the comprehensive review that occurs in a general rate case. In the many years since this rider was established, the policy context surrounding the gas system has evolved significantly, and Minnesota regulators are actively examining the future of the gas system through several ongoing processes. At the same time, gas customers are facing rising energy bills, and there is growing uncertainty about the future size and cost of the gas system. Established and increasingly cost-effective technologies such as electric heat pumps are already changing how buildings are heated and are expected to reduce future gas demand. In this environment, accelerating spending on gas infrastructure through automatic riders is increasingly misaligned with Minnesota's energy policies and market trends. Our state is not unique in this regard, as other states, including Colorado, have recently eliminated their equivalent gas infrastructure cost riders. It is also important to note that the expiration of the rider would not remove utilities' obligation to maintain safe and reliable service or create any new barriers to completing investments that improve safety. Rather, it would ensure that major infrastructure investments receive comprehensive review through the traditional regulatory process. At a time of rising gas bills, utility investments warrant heightened scrutiny with long-term system planning in mind, not expedited cost recovery. For these reasons, Fresh Energy encourages the committee to maintain the existing sunset as approved by the legislature just 3 years ago and vote no on Senate File 3954. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eichten. Last, we'll hear from Mr. Pranis from Leuna. Mr. Pranis, if you could come forward, please. Mr. Pranis, welcome back to the Energy Committee. Please introduce yourself and present your testimony. You look very sharp today.
I ran all the way back to the office to get that time. Thank you, Chair Frentz and Senator Hoffman, committee members. My name is Kevin Pranis. I represent LiUNA, Minnesota, and North Dakota, which represents more than 14,000 construction laborers and their families all across Minnesota. I'm here to support SF 3954 with a focus on the GUIC rider that you've heard a lot about today. LiUNA alone represents 800 to 1,000 members who do their main work on our gas distribution system and pipeline system, helping people keep their houses warm. But we work alongside, hundreds and hundreds of additional union members. Ms. Fitzke mentioned operating engineers, pipe trades, sheet metal workers who do that work inside buildings, and even the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, which represents gas utility workers. So this is a large workforce keeping everyone safe and homes heated every day. There's only two purposes for the GUIC rider. It's public works accommodations and it's safety. Those are the only things that are allowed to be funded. So not increase and not expansions to new communities, only keeping the system that we have safe and making sure that if a road interchange needs to be fixed, that you can move those pipes so that the city can get on its work. And so we're talking about $400 million that, or almost $400 million that Dr. Lieb referenced. That's $400 million in critical infrastructure improvements that have happened because of this rider that have kept people safer and allowed cities like St. Paul and Maplewood and Mendota Heights and many others to move forward with their public works projects. There's some suggestion that a rate case is more appropriate. We've been in rate cases and we disagree. Everything, including the kitchen sink, gets thrown into a rate case. That doesn't mean, it does take more time, but it doesn't mean that these particular investments get more scrutiny. We think they're better scrutinized in the rider that we have today. I think that's why the Public Utilities Commission is comfortable with that. I would also point out that all you get from moving it to rate cases is more frequent rate cases, because if these investments have to be recovered, then you have to file a rate case for investments in a big public works project that might go away after a year or two. So you might end up with higher bills as a result of putting them in rate cases. Finally, I would just say that I have heard concerns about these expenditures, but I haven't heard about a single penny that was spent through this rider that anyone is arguing should not have been approved for the utility because it wasn't for these critical safety expenditures or was misspent. And so I think that's proof the rider's working. All you get from removing the rider is uncertainty, and that's hard on our members, it's hard on contractors, and ultimately increases costs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice. Before you run off, you made the comment the PUC is, quote, comfortable. I know members on this committee of both parties would appreciate just a little more about that comment.
Chair Frentz and committee members, to be clear, I do not represent the Public Utilities Commission. I would just note that the Public Utilities Commission uses this rider regularly, that all of those rider proceedings go through the PUC to the degree they're shorter than a rate case. It's because all the questions get answered in less time, and the Public Utilities Commission is not here today arguing that it would be inappropriate to extend the sunset.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice. Good context. Members, that's the end of our listed testifiers. Questions, comments, observations for the bill author or for the committee? The intention of the chair is to lay it over. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was my first question, was for you about what the intent of the bill is. And I'm sorry that I didn't ask this but when you were first up, but I do have a question for XL, if I could.
Do that.
Thank you. So as I understand it, Colorado had a recent similar debate about a rider like this, and that Colorado's PUC told XL to phase out their equivalent of the GUIC rider. I wonder if you could tell us why that happened in Colorado.
Yeah,
Mr. Conroy, thank you for coming back up to the senator's question. You got the floor.
Yeah, just for the record, Dan Canoy, XL Energy Director of Gas Operations Engineering. It is a true statement that there was a gas infrastructure-based rider within the Colorado region that worked through with the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. It wasn't a exact comparison of exactly what the rider for the style of work for in each state, in each area. I can't give you the exact reason why the Utilities Commission made those decisions and went down that path. What I can tell you is that in the Colorado region, we are now having to look at long-term planning processes with the full entirety of system safety as well as new technologies in those aspects in one full view of things. Whereas in Minnesota, with the current GUIC rider, when we know that we're planning for system safety integrity and mandatory relocations for the future, we know that's going to be coming, and part of this position in the rider, we can focus more energy on other things like new technologies and carbon reduction and those types of things. So I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't know exactly why, in my opinion, it hinders our ability to plan for the long term.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that does sort of help me understand the rationale, that your understanding of the rationale. And I from our research and whatnot, the information that I had heard was that it was determined that the rider wasn't necessary, that the safety and all of the issues that were brought in consideration of the rider were met without having it. So I guess any time that there's an exception that has not been around forever, and my next question actually is well, I'll finish my first thought. I'm concerned about the lack of transparency to the public. That is really what I'm most concerned about. I'm concerned about the public not having the information that they would typically have through a traditional process, and I also. Yeah, that really, I guess, is my primary concern, is to make sure that the public has the information that we need to have. But I do have a follow-up question, and I'm not sure who this would be best addressed to, perhaps Senator Hoffman or whoever knows the answer to this. But I'm wondering about when this was initially enacted, I believe 2005. I am wondering what led to the initial enactment of this. Thanks.
Can I
maybe,
maybe,
Senator McEwen, we'll probably stick just to the question asked, Mr. Conaway. So the question is, and if you can't answer it, we can have another testifier up, what led to the initial passage of the 2005 rider? Am I getting that right, Senator McEwen? All right. If you want to tackle that question, Mr. Conaway, that's fine, or we can have someone else come up.
Sure.
Mr. Conaway.
Yeah. In the early 2000s, around the San Bruno timeframe, I talked about that a little bit earlier, the federal government took put a few different rules into place that really drove around. I'm going to simplify this quite a bit. You know, they wanted gas utilities to know their transmission pipes and their distribution pipes and mains and understand the risks that were taken apart. You hear quite a bit when you talk about pipeline-related code about integrity management programs, transmission integrity management programs, distribution integrity management programs. And this is a direct tie to the overall safety of renewal of aging infrastructure as utilities are hitting that age where materials are failing and having risk upon the system. So that's really what it was tied to in the early 2000s, was tied to federal regulation and then our ability to understand and plan for those types of things.
Thanks, Mr. Conaway. Senator McEwen, I think Senator Hoffman might have something to add if you're open to that.
I knew Hoffman. I had that, Mr. Chair, and Senator McEwen. You can tell, I mean, Senator McEwen, a good lawyer would ask, you know, where's the basis of this conversation? And you guys are going to laugh at this. House File 942 in 2005 was a Tory Westrum bill in the other body. Isn't that takes you back? And the definition, what they wanted to do specifically, they wanted recoverable components on rate of return, income taxes, property taxes. One filing per year must provide sufficient documentation and filing, and there is specific language about stakeholders, making sure that the stakeholders are involved in the process. Worked. There was then, Senator, in 2013, that would be House File 1015. Yvonne Seltzer was the chief author of that. That would be my sister-in-law. So in full disclosure, I am a CenterPoint, what do you call it, when you pay CenterPoint to do stuff, and Xcel Energy, so you guys don't, you know, there's no conflict here. And it was in the Senate File 1040 was Katie Sieben. Do you remember that name? And that was an updated, and that really, they amended it to expand the eligibility of projects planned to be in service within a one-year forecast period. So every time they redid it, and I can get this to you, Senator McEwen, if you want to see this, it's actually kind of cool. It goes all the way up to 2023. That would be a Zhang, Senator Zhang, a Hoffman and a Rarick update that did in 2023 looked at the statute. So there's always been some folks within our kind of bailiwick to work on that, but it was all set up for that. So
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Senator McEwen.
fun.
Thank you very much. That answers my question. I do have concerns about this around the transparency issue. So as I understand, this is going to be laid over. We can continue those discussions offline. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess for laying it over today, I would like to ask if there would be consideration at some point to bring it back to actually vote it through as a standalone. I think something I've been advocating for, and that things should be more bills should be going to the floor standalone. And I hate to say it, but I don't know that I like our chances of passing a omnibus bill that gets agreed upon by both bodies this year. So if there's something like this that I believe makes absolute sense that we should be doing,
Floor.
Yeah, to get it to the floor. So I would ask that we would at least consider that as an option here in the near future.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. Further member questions, comments, or concerns? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to, I'm glad we're laying it over. Kind of 60% of the way there, but some of the issues that were raised by our friends at Fresh Energy have got my attention. I just appreciate some more opportunity to talk to my good friend Senator Hoffman about those to see if there's some merit to their concerns. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Members, we're going to go back to Senator Hoffman for closing comments, but Senator Rarick, to your point, we're in touch with the other body. We're having some discussions about whether there will be omnibus bills or whether they'll have to go as a standalone. I think our obligation as legislators to try to work together, try to get stuff passed. Omnibus bills are one of the tools in the toolbox. I guess I would report it to the public this way. We do not have an agreement quite yet with the other body about what that's going to look like, and we are not to the point where omnibus bills are going to be agreed to. So we're taking these as standalone bills for now. I'm aware of how the precious floor time is running out, so you have my pledge to continue those conversations. Senator Matthews and I talked earlier today about a couple bills that'll be up next week. Members, we'll have to contribute our voices to that particular discussion. I think omnibus bills can be agreed to in certain cases, and I don't like the idea that we would just say we're not even going to explore that approach, because if we pass a bunch of standalone bills, we all know what will happen. We'll get towards the end of session, and it won't be that they aren't good policy or budget. It'll be that we don't have time on the floor. So you have my promise to continue that discussion and share with committee members, when we get to that point. With that, with the chair's intention to lay the bill over, Senator Hoffman, any final comments?
Mr. Chair and members, thank you. You're speaking my language. I was going to say send it to the floor because I missed saying that in committees. But just to the points, Senator Dibble, absolutely, Jim Pearson and Dan would be absolutely, I think, like this tradition of this committee is to get everybody in a room. I mean, that's how you did when you redid SIP, it was you got all the stakeholders in a room and really worked on it. And I think that's what this committee's been about. So I appreciate you thinking about sending it to the floor. I think I got enough votes to send it to the floor if I wanted to, right? But that's all right. I won't do my math. Thank you very much for hearing this bill, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman, and I appreciate your pledge to engage with Senator Dibble, Senator McEwen, and the other voices. Yep. The committee has also always hoped to move all members that we can to at least neutral on bills, and so I think there's a tiny bit more work here to do. Your testifiers are great. Conversation started. With that, thank you. Senate File 3954 is laid over. Next up, Senator Champion, Senate File 3211. Senator Champion, welcome to the Senate Energy, Utilities, Environment, and Climate Committee.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Chair, for having me. Thank you to the committee for this opportunity to talk about Senate File number 3211. I hope that we will be able to answer any and all your questions, but let me start by saying this. This is a clean energy infrastructure bill, right? Macalester College is building a North Campus resident hall and a welcome center powered by geothermal plant and rooftop solar. This $2.57 million ask is from the Renewable Development Account, and this is to modernize Macalester's energy consumption. What it does is it also eliminates the college's largest emission source and reduces maintenance and operating costs relative to the aging steam plant it's replacing. This geothermal plant is designed for future expansion to serve as a district heating and cooling system for all campus buildings. This is a critical step in Macalester's transition off natural gas and towards decarbonization. And so we hope that you will support it. And with that, I do have a couple testifiers with me. Erica Switchenberg.
Yes.
I think I got it right. That is one of my testifiers. And then we also have
Nathan Leaf.
Who will answer any technical questions, and he may have a couple things that he would like to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Well done. Ms. Schwichtenberg, welcome to the committee. If you could please introduce yourself and present a couple of minutes of testimony.
Thank you, Chair Friends. Thank you, President Champion. Greetings to also Vice Chair Zhang and Ranking Minority Member Matthews and committee members. Macalester appreciates the time that you've provided for us to discuss our project, Senate File 3211. I'm Erica Schwichtenberg, Foundation Government Relations at Macalester College, and I'm joined by my colleague Nathan Leaf, Associate Vice President of Facilities. Macalester College is a nationally recognized liberal arts institution in St. Paul and an Xcel Energy customer. We are here to request $2.57 million from the Renewable Development Account to fund geothermal plants serving our new North Campus Residence Hall and Welcome Center, a project already under construction. The statutory fit, we feel this is the right use for the RDA funds. The project stimulates R&D of renewable electric energy technologies, encourages grid modernization, and funds innovative projects that reduce demand and increase system efficiency. This is a ground source geothermal heat pump and rooftop solar, and these are squarely renewable technologies. It's an electric powered grid integrated clean energy system. It will electrify campus heating transfer load from fossil fuel combustion to electrical grid. The exact demand side modernization the statute envisions. The system efficiency and innovation technology, the solar array, and the super efficient building envelope design will result in a building that is approximately 40% more efficient than required code. And there's a ratepayer benefit. Macalester pays Xcel Energy bills. The project directly benefits Xcel ratepayers by demonstrating a scalable electrification of a urban campus, a model replicable across Minnesota's institutional sector. The project is a ground source heat pump, geothermal, central plant paired with rooftop solar arrays integrated into the new North Campus Residence Hall and Welcome Center. Like I said, a build already underway. The plant is engineered from day one to connect additional North Campus buildings over time. The accounting for electricity's higher per unit cost, this geothermal solar will save up to $71,000 per year compared to our standard building systems. And the rooftop solar on the new building provides an on-site generation that directly offsets electricity demand for the geothermal plant. The community benefit I'd like to talk about now is that the new Residence Hall and Welcome Center Plaza and Cafe that this geothermal plant will be publicly accessible, serving 3,000 non-Macalester community members annually through programs, events, and our campus arboretum. This is not an insular campus infrastructure project, it's a St. Paul community infrastructure project. The larger residence hall project returns 224 affordable housing units to St. Paul's rental and affordable housing market as students move back onto campus. This is a direct contribution to the city's housing supply challenge. This is a living laboratory. Macalester's geothermal and solar installation creates a working demonstration site for Minnesota students, policymakers, and institutions exploring electrification. The lessons learned are scaled. In closing, we are asking for $2.57 million from the RDA to fund the geothermal plant at Macalester's new North Campus Residence Hall and Welcome Center. We thank the committee for considering this request, and we welcome questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schwichtenberg. Mr. Leap, you're here for technical consultation, or do you have a comment you want to add to the testimony?
I'm just here to answer questions.
All right, thank you. With that, members, that ends the listed testifiers. We're going to go to Senator Green. Senator Green, just a quick explanation. We were not able to reach an agreement last year on renewable development account funds. I have been emailing the House co-chairs asking, is there not compromise? And just for context, members, Mr. Mueller will tell you about $51 million that we've already taken from ratepayers that so far we have no plans for. To me, that strikes me as worst case scenario. You took the money and you didn't do anything with it. So into that, we've urged the House to see if they can reach a House position on RDA. It may be compromised between the two parties, and it may be that we can agree to it. Thus, Senator Champion's bill here today and other RDA bills, I think, should be a goal of ours in this committee. Even if you want to give the money back to ratepayers and not do projects, that would at least be doing something with the RDA. With that, members' questions for the author of the bill or for the testifiers? Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then just as a comment that just because the money's there is not really an excuse to spend it unless it's a good project. But to either the author or the testifiers, either one, probably to the testifiers because this concerns the college. I was trying to do the numbers on this, and it's a $100 million project that you're doing, and that's for the whole building, of course. But there's $10.5 million, I think, for the heating system. And so do you, first of all, can you tell me if this is an open system or a closed loop system on the geothermal?
It's a closed loop system.
Thanks, Senator Green. Mr. Lee. We're the Senate. We have our special ways of doing things. Mr. Lee, for Senator Green's question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, it's a closed loop system.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Chair.
Senator Green.
The reason that I ask is because in the description, it only said that you were going down into the aquifer system, and generally that means a pump and dump where you pull the water out and run it, so it's good that it's a closed loop. The other question is, where's the rest of the money coming from? And I don't know if it's proper for us to ask about the whole project, but if you could tell me that, that would be good. But I see that you've requested $3 million in federal funds, but I don't know if you've got that yet. And where does the other money come from?
Thank you, Senator Green. I think that's a very appropriate question for anybody seeking funds from the RDA. We should be able to ask where the rest of the money's coming from. I don't know, Senator Champion, if you want, Ms. Schwichtenberg.
Thank you, Chair Friends, and thank you, Senator Green. Great question. Of the heating and cooling system, we've already invested of Macalester's money $7 million. So this is the last hurdle we need to overcome. We were not successful in the congressional request from last year for $3 million. We made it to the very last moment, and then we're not included. The rest of the funding for the project is private philanthropy and a bond issue that we have built into the project. And there should be a correction to the materials. I apologize, the project, Nathan, correct me wrong, is $88 million.
That is correct.
Okay. So we have scaled this to right size for the amount of bonds and the amount of private philanthropy and then public funding that we have situated together for the project.
Thanks, Ms. Schwichtenberg. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I was looking up, and it looks like the endowment for Macalester is $692 million. Is that right?
Yes.
So you got a lot of money on hand, and it seems like, you know, you're coming for $2.5 million, and that's fine, I guess. But there again, is it really needed? And then I have a question on the HVAC system that you have now. Is it obsolete, or are you just replacing it because it's fossil fuel?
Ms. Schwichtenberg or Mr. Leaf.
Thank you, Chair Friends. I can take the part about the endowment, and then I'll turn the next question over to my colleague, Nathan Leaf. Our endowment is primarily funding financial aid for students at the college. That is, there's very little left over for operational costs. So that is why Macalester is very affordable to the students who need aid. That is the primary earmark for our endowment.
Mr. Leaf, you want to tackle the rest of that question?
Thank you, Chair Friends. Senator, the current system is not obsolete, but this is a new building on campus, so this was an opportunity to change the way that we're doing business from a heating and cooling standpoint. This is what I would consider phase one of a long-term project to slowly convert the campus over to geothermal heating and cooling. We're building this plant so that it can be expanded over time with the intention to bring multiple buildings onto the plant and decouple them from the natural gas burning boiler plant that's currently in operation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it is not obsolete, but it has limited capacity, and this is a new building and an opportunity for us to sort of change the way we're doing business going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Leaf. Senator Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question that I have is the payback. You're looking at 10.5 million and or 5 million, and I did some numbers on this. You're telling me that you're getting about $170,000 a year in savings. Was that? You shook your head no. Is that correct? That's what was stated? Mr. Leaf.
7.
Thank you. Senator, the amount that we expect to save is up to $71,000 annually, and that's as a result of the geothermal system, the enhanced envelope on the building, and the rooftop solar system that's going to be on this building as well.
Senator Green.
Okay, what is the half-life of your system you're putting in? Do you know how long is it expected to last?
Mr. Leaf.
Senator, the system is expected to last between 50 and 100 years. It's a fairly new technology, but that is the estimate from Darcy, the manufacturer. That is referencing the piping systems, the wells, some of the ancillary equipment will need to be changed out over time, like any system.
Senator Green.
Okay, because my numbers don't show a good payback, but even though I don't want to be alive in 50 or 100 years because that would make me really old, it'd be nice to see anything last that long, so I would be curious about that. I guess the only other question that I would have, or actually comment, is that we put a lot of money into these systems. I don't know what you're going to have for backup. I'm assuming the solar is going to be the electricity to run the geothermal, and so you're all contained there. And so is there a provision in there where you can get backup besides electricity? Are you going to keep anything online in the way of natural gas in case electricity fails, basically?
Thanks,
Senator. That's all I have.
Thanks, Senator Green. Mr. Leap, is that for you?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, the building will only be partially powered by the solar array on the roof. Doesn't have enough capacity to power the entire building or system, so it's augmenting what we are buying from Xcel Energy via the grid. So we'll still be hooked up to the grid. We've also made provisions to run our steam system head into the plant so that in the event that there is a failure, we have backup. So we are going, because this is our first system, we are going about this in a very conservative manner to make sure that we are covered. We have people living on campus. We can't afford to not have things work. And so as we work through this first building and this first system, we're taking all precautions to make sure that we're covered.
Thank you, Mr. Leaf. Senator Green.
Just to say that just goes to prove how reliable fossil fuels are, so we should make sure not to get rid of them.
Senator, I saw that coming a mile away. Thank you, Senator Green. Thank you, Mr. Leaf. We're going next to Senator Gruenhagen. Senator.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, did you make a motion to return the $52 million to the ratepayers?
No, but I have had advocacy from legislators that part of the RDA would be returned as part of a compromise. So I can tell you that there's some members in the other body who like that to be part of the discussion. Senator Gruenhagen.
Yeah, because we got about 36% of Minnesotans, according to testimony, can't pay their electric bill, so it might help them. So if you do make that motion, I'll second it, okay? But, just a couple things. I got some notes here, too, and Senator Green asked some of the questions I was going to ask already, but I got... on the $100 million, I got $82 million in pre-development. That's just a general statement. That's my staff notes here. $82 million in pre-development. Can you fill that in at all?
Senator, I think the testimony was the total project cost was $88 million, but I'm going to go to Mr. Leaf and see if there's some context there that's different from what I heard. Mr. Leaf.
Chair Friends, that is correct. The total cost of the building, including design and all of the pre-work that we've done, is $88 million at this time.
Oh, okay.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, evidently, I've got some inaccurate information. The second thing, I am concerned about return on investment. I am suspect of information that comes from people who are selling something into a program. I guess I learned that from experience. When we had built stadiums, the people who were building the stadium came out with studies how great it was going to be, and yet independent studies show that it was a drag on the economy. So when you tell me that 50 to 100 years from somebody who's selling something to the system, first thing that happens to me is I'm pretty suspect of those numbers, okay? I mean, we can just make them up as we go. And the other thing I'd like to see before we commit any money to this is a comparison of using natural gas versus doing something like this in the new building, okay? I mean, a line-by-line comparison. And the other thing about fossil fuels, they are dependable. You're not going to have a rolling blackout or the sun not shining or something like that. And I just think, well, everybody knows I'm not a Green New Deal person. I don't know, every time I look at some of these projects, it just seems everything is inflated in there. And I guess if you want to do it, go ahead and do it with your endowment. But I don't know why state taxpayers should stick their money into this at this particular point, especially when, budget-wise, we're extremely tight, and with ratepayers struggling to pay their electric bills, I think the best thing we can do is give them the money back to help them with their rate paying. And if you want to go do this, have at it. But that doesn't mean Minnesota taxpayers should have to cough money up. So that's just my thoughts, okay? Give me a comparison between fossil fuel natural gas versus doing this on this building, and independent source would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. As far as independent sources, before we go to Senator Champion, there was a story this week about an independent study suggesting that the cost to Minnesotans of climate change is $20 billion a year. I'll be happy to have my staff find a copy and we can debate it. Let's go to Senator Champion for now.
Just one.
Unless you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I would respond to that.
Senator Champion's right there with us, ready to go.
We've had testimony at this committee, and here when the studies came out, it found out that the people who came up with the so-called independent studies were actually making money on the deal. So again, in government, the studies tend to, be slanted, like the light rail study I looked at. So much of it is fudged that because we don't have competition, it does seem like human nature being what it is, they tend to manipulate the data. So I'm very suspect of so-called independent studies unless I verify who actually did them.
I promise you, Senator Gruenhagen, by the time we adjourn this hearing, you will have a copy of that study. Having my staff get it, and you can scrutinize it. I'd like to go to Senator Champion to respond. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly to a couple things that I heard. I think it's important for us to understand and appreciate the context of what is being presented here today. Number one is that this is an opportunity for future expansion so that there's an opportunity to see the effectiveness of this geothermal system. You also heard that Macalester is being very responsible. They are talking about how they have a backup system just in case, just to make sure. And if we were to take the position as to what I hear about great Senator Friend over there saying Senator Gruenhagen, that we wouldn't have any of the modern technology that we have today. Whether that's going from a horse and carriage to a car, whether that's going, I mean, if you just think in terms of history, we've always have had to transition and try new things because that's a part of being robust and thoughtful. And so there's this backup system, and even to suggest that before we do something, we need to have a comparison. Senator Gruenhagen, then dug in a little around, can you trust the studies and some of the other things? That's a legitimate question, but I think it should also be a legitimate notion, even when you think in terms of doing a comparison. Who's going to do the comparison? Who's going to do any of that? Not to suggest that it's not important. And Senator, I also hear this a lot around artificial intelligence. You know, we know that there's some challenges and there's some concerns, but there has to be a balance of even understanding how we allow creativity and thoughtfulness to go forward. And you don't have to be a fan of the Green New Deal. This is about a college that's here in our midst. And Senator, I hope that we are not suggesting that some of the students or staff at Macalester are not taxpayers. They're taxpayers as well. And it's not some outside system or outside group that's coming in asking us to give money to them. They are taxpayers. We see that here's an opportunity, and we should be about innovation and forward thinking. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator Gruenhagen, do you want to respond? I've already emailed you the study. Senator Gruenhagen.
I'd like to just make a comment. Yeah, appreciate your response there, Senator Champion. You know, they can do this. We just don't have to subsidize it, okay? And what I found with government subsidy is wherever government's, generally speaking, wherever government subsidy shows up, the price of everything goes up, okay? And that's just a general economic principle that seems to be true over and over again. Second thing is, well, I'll leave that point off. So I'm not saying they can't do the project. Let them do the project. And they want to have students, you know, make, or private people make contributions, have at it. I just don't think state taxpayers should be mandated to do it. So, and again, I'm for innovation, and but I'm not for necessarily taxpayers subsidizing that innovation. So anyway, that's just my thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator
Just
Gruenhagen.
one last comment.
Senator Champion.
If I can. Then that seems to be in direct competition with the whole notion of public-private partnerships. Is because we do have partnerships. We do things with private businesses and others. So that's all I wanted to say. That I believe it's a part of what we should do is to step up, and especially when there's been an investment by the college, there's been others. They're not asking this body or taxpayers to foot the entire bill, but there is this thing that's called the Renewable Development Account for a reason. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Senator Gruenhagen, again, delivered the study to you, so I know you take a look at it. I'll leave it to Senator Matthews what voice you have in this, I hope, coming discussion of renewable development account. But this is money already taken out of Excel ratepayers' pockets, of which Macalester College, its faculty, staff, and students are a part of. And just a reminder to the committee, it hasn't been that long since we used renewable development account money for the St. Thomas microgrid. And in the chair's opinion, that produced some very positive results that showed innovation can be good for the public at large. And we've had a discussion about solar in this committee, and whatever role you think the government played in solar, the panels are 90% lower cost than they were 20 years ago. So I think there are examples out there where this can produce a benefit. Having said that, it is the chair's intention to lay the bill over. Encourage you, Senator Gruenhagen, to be part of the RDA discussion. Seeing no other comments, I'm going to give Senator Champion the last word before we lay the bill over. Senator Champion, anything to add?
Nothing to add. Thank you so much to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the committee for the robust discussion. If there are any questions that we can answer for you offline, or just simply let us know, and we'll provide you with whatever information that you need. And we hope at the end of the day that you agree that this is a great opportunity to invest and to resource this geothermal project. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Champion. Thank you, testifiers. Excellent work. Senate File 3211 is laid over for now. Our final bill members is Senator Dibble, Senate File 4450. Senator Dibble, great to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You have
great to be here.
You have the floor. Senator Dibble, I have your testifiers, Mr. Nisset and Mr. Shardlow. To-year bill, Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present Senate File number 4450. I'd also like to thank my co-authors, you, Mr. Chair, and Senator Marty. Members and Mr. Chair, Senate File 4450 is simple, targeted, and high impact. It makes a one-time $4 million transfer from the Renewable Development Account, the RDA, to the state's preweatherization account to ensure that our lowest income households can actually access the energy savings programs that we fund, much of which we receive from the federal government. At the core of the bill, Mr. Chair, is to make sure our existing energy investments work better and work for everyone. So the problem we're trying to solve, of course, is to make sure that homes that might be eligible to receive weatherization funds are actually in sufficient shape to do so. Many of the households who qualify and need it cannot access those funds because the houses are too unsafe or structurally deficient to receive weatherization, whether that's mold, faulty wiring, asbestos, basic issues like roof patching and the like. And so weatherization funds would then, in that instance, go unused or be underutilized. And Minnesotans, of course, who are the highest need would be left behind. So as I mentioned, it transfers $4 million on a one-time basis. This is in recognition of the fact that there was a cut to the base that was made last year of about that much. It would not, of course, restore the base. It'd be a one-time basis. It does come from the RDA. Maybe not exactly what the RDA pays for, but it is in the spirit of what the RDA aspires to achieve, which is energy innovation, grid modernization, projects that reduce demand and increase efficiency, and preweatherization does exactly that by enabling energy efficiency upgrades and thus unlocking federal assistance program funds, making sure we're not leaving any money on the table. I think that's probably a sufficient explanation. I had one more thought, but it slipped, and it'll come back after my brilliant testifiers.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Well done, and worth pointing out, members, weatherization has been a bipartisan goal. Those of us that have lower income constituents are watching weatherization as a great investment. With that, I don't know if you want Mr. Shardlow or Mr. Nissen first. Mr. Shardlow, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is George Shardlow, and I serve as Executive Director of the Energy Sense Coalition, or ECC. ECC's mission is to promote affordable utility service for low and fixed income Minnesotans through advocacy, weatherization services, and direct bill assistance. Minnesota's state law sets an official policy of a cost-effective transition to a clean energy future. As someone who fights for affordable utility services, cost-effectiveness is something I value. Unfortunately, with low-income weatherization, we run into a challenge. When we seek to weatherize the homes of low-income people, we must often start with health and safety measures before those efficiency measures can be completed. In other words, we must spend dollars on work that does not constitute energy savings in and of itself. The savings come through future work made possible by preweatherization measures. No one sees energy savings from taking the vermiculite out, but we must take the vermiculite out in order to put in new insulation in. As a result, applications for federal weatherization funding are often deferred until preweatherization is completed. Intentional investments in preweatherization remove this initial cost from the equation, making applications to weatherize these homes more competitive. Simply put, these are dollars that unlock more dollars and more federal dollars, one of the best kinds of investments we can make. In the process, we begin to build towards a future where low and fixed income Minnesotans can afford their lives. For occupants of these homes, the energy savings and therefore the lower bills might mean a future where they no longer have to choose between paying the utility bill and refilling a prescription. Before I close, I'll just note that in program year 24, fully 2/3 of funding from this program went to rural communities, so this is a truly regionally equitable program. I thank the committee for its consideration, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shardlow. Well done. Mr. Nissen, please introduce yourself and present your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Will Nissen, Director of Policy at Center for Energy and Environment. CEE is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to develop and deploy the most effective energy solutions that strengthen the economy and improve the environment. We've been doing that work for over 40 years through program development and implementation, research, lending tools, community collaboration, and policy advocacy. And the main core of that work has focused on energy efficiency. And so I want to thank Senator Dibble, who's a longtime efficiency champion, for sponsoring the bill, as well as the co-authors. As Mr. Shardlow said, preweatherization efforts are critical for low-income residents and ratepayers to access money to then do energy efficiency and conservation. And those measures are measures that not only reduce the bill in the month or the time they're implemented, but over the life of the measure. So those are month to month to month, year over year savings that those people, those residents are not paying on their bill. So we feel that this is critical to expanding that access and allowing those customers to invest in efficiency in their home. And then to just widen out a little bit to the system level, the resource that efficiency provides to our state on the electric side makes up about 14% of our total electric demand is provided by energy efficiency over the last several years. So we fully support this legislation, and again, appreciate Senator Dibble for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Nissen. I have no other testifiers listed. Members, of course, this is another renewable development account, so we're going to go to member comments or questions. Senator Gruenhagen.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you know, I generally support weatherization, okay? But, you know, I own an independent insurance agency, and I've got several contractors. I carry their business insurance. And so I've talked to them about, you know, we passed Green New Deal mandates on to do construction, everything else. And I just ask them about that. And then, you know, the other thing that at least two of them have consistently said is a house does need to breathe, okay? In other words, we can make it so tight that it's actually, the air becomes unhealthy for the people inside, and it can also cause some negative problems. And I'm aware of a friend of mine, they moved up north, this is back in the Carter years, and they insulated their house so good you couldn't get a squeak of air in it from the outside. And they developed such bad mold in that house that they had to do some hiring of specialists to clean the mold out of the house. And basically, because they were my friend, they just said that we made the house too tight to insulation, and it actually caused moisture and mold. So how do we bring a balance between how, you know, to me, we allow the contractors to make this decision more than a mandate from the government, or what are your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Maybe Mr. Nissen, you can describe what we have seen as far as the guarding against over-insulation from the Carter administration.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr.
I would
Chair.
have phrased it a little bit differently.
I'll note that, Mr. Chair, Senator Gruenhagen, I was not born in the Carter administration, but I'll do my best. We have a lot of technical experts at CEE that look at the balance of our policy to right-size that amount of insulation, so to put the right amount in and incentivize buildings that are tight enough to be energy efficient and save energy without harming the health or air quality inside the home. So happy to follow up with some people who are smarter in that building science arena than I am and keep that conversation going.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. You're good. Members, other comments, questions? Again, this is renewable development account, part of a larger conversation. Seeing none, our attention, of course, is to lay it over. Senator Dibble, any final comments?
No, thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a good step to take. There's $48 million sitting in the renewable development account. Might not be within the narrow confines of the definition, hence the notwithstanding language in the bill. But like I said in my presentation, it maintains the spirit of the Renewable Development Account. I'll also mention it is Excel ratepayer money that could conceivably get beyond the Excel territory. So I acknowledge that. I usually don't sign bills like this. So I'm open to that conversation if that becomes sufficient concern to yourself, Mr. Chair, or other members of the committee. Thank you.
Excellent work, Senator Dibble. You deserve credit for a long-time champion of low-income heating assistance, for EAP, all of that. You have my support on what we're trying to do here. With that, Senate File 4450 is laid over. Members, just a little forward spin. Next week, we're going to hear two bills that I don't believe are jacketed yet. Senator Matthews has what we hope will be a nuclear study coming forward. If we don't have the jackets, I think we're going to hear it as a reviser's draft, or at least that would be something I'd be open to. Also, we're talking about legislation for host communities. Keep in mind, we have some discussions to have about renewable development account, and I'd encourage every member of the Senate Energy Committee to consider talking to their House members and just say, hey, we could do some business here if we can find some compromise. I am encouraged by what I'm hearing out of the House co-chairs, but not positive. We also have a PUC technical bill, which we'll be bringing forward next week. I think that'll be worth hearing. And with that, we are adjourned.